If you are considering living full-time in an RV or a camper on your property, but you're not really sure where to start or how it all works, stay tuned because this video is for you. So 2 years ago, my husband and I decided we were going to buy a piece of land that we would eventually build a house on. But in the meantime, we needed somewhere to live. And so we bought a 40-foot fifth wheel off of Facebook Marketplace and we moved it to our land. But before we could move into the camper, there were a million steps that we had to think through and do before we could actually live there full time. My husband and I created a 40-page guide that breaks down every single step that takes you from going from a house to living in a camper full time. And in that guide, we break down every single step from figuring out your why you're moving into a camper in the first place, if camper living is right for you, shopping for your camper, things to look for whenever you're inspecting campers, where you can buy a camper, and then setting up all the utilities and everything. So that is very, very detailed. As I said, it's a 40-page guide. So I will link that down below. That's going to be more detailed than what I'm sharing in this video. But in this video, I've kind of compiled the top 4 things I think you really need to figure out before you move your family into a camper full time. Typically in my videos, it's me and my husband chatting together, but this video is a lot more just black and white, and I wanted to share the numbers and the cost of everything, so I figured I would film this one on my own. I've got some notes here, so if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. But I wanted to start by sharing that a common misconception is that you can just buy a camper and plop it somewhere and start living in it, and that is just simply not the case. There's a lot more to it, some things that you need to definitely figure out before you move into your camper. There are some things that you can figure out on the fly once you get into it, but in today's video, I'm going to break down the main 4 things that I believe you need to figure out before moving into your camper full time. The 4 things I'm going to cover in this video are water, electricity, waste tanks, and laundry. So the first topic we're going to cover is water. You have to figure out what you're going to do as your water source before you move into your camper. So every camper is probably going to have some sort of water tank system where it holds water in a tank in your camper, and then there's a pump that pumps the water to your faucets, to your shower, maybe to your laundry, depending on what all you have. So that is one option, is you can fill your tank and then have your RV pump to your faucets. This was not a sustainable solution for our family since we knew we were going to be in the camper for a couple of years while we prep and build our house. And so hauling in water just wasn't practical for us. On our property, we had a rural water source. We just had to run a line from that. So we opted to do that. So the other option besides filling your tank continually and refilling it whenever it empties is to just connect to like a city line or to connect your camper to a water spigot. So whenever you connect your camper to a spigot or to a city source or to a rural source or whatever you have, you are not filling that tank in your camper. It's just automatically going to your faucets. So that's what we opted to do because we knew that hauling was not going to be an option for us. I know some people do that, and it is possible. Some people even bring in large water storage tanks that they put next to their camper, and then they pump from that and they refill that instead of refilling their little tank over and over again. That's another option you can look into. But for us, the best solution was to just run a water line to a spigot next to our camper. So I'm going to break down what that looked like for us and how much everything cost. Just a quick little disclaimer is that we do live in central Illinois in a very, very rural area. There are not a lot of rules where we live. So this is just what it cost for us, where we're at. It might be different where you're at. The first thing we had to do was just find the water meter box on our property, which is typically, I think, up by the road. Then we rented a trencher from a local rental place. The trencher rental fee was $225, and that same day we just ran our trench for our electricity and our water, so we got more bang for our buck. So we did both those trenches in one day, so I will only count that price one time. And we trenched a line from the water meter by the road to where we wanted our spigot to go, right next to our camper. It's important to measure so you know how far your hose can go, and your spigot just needs to be close enough that a hose can connect to it. Another crucial step whenever you are trenching your water line is to make sure that you trench below the frost line. And depending where you are located, that can vary. We are in central Illinois, as I said, so our frost line is 36 inches. So we just wanted to make sure that we dug below that so that our line was not freezing underground. The next thing we did was go to a local hardware store to purchase our spigot and all the connections that we needed. And then we also had to buy the PEX tubing that we ran the water line through. So the spigot and the attachments cost about $130, and the PEX tubing cost about $100. Once we had our spigot in place, our trench dug, and our water line connected at both ends, we only had to pay a water reinstatement fee to our water company, and then we were ready to roll. So that reinstatement fee was $600, and then we had water at our spigot, so that was fantastic. Then it was just plug and play at that point. So the next step whenever you are prepping your land for full-time stationary RV life is figuring out what you're going to do for electricity. I've had some people comment and say, why didn't you just set up full solar on your property or on your camper? That just wasn't in the budget for us. As I said, our camper is a temporary living situation for our family while we build our house. So we were not interested in investing a ton of money into the camper because it's just a short-term means to an end situation for our family. But if you think you're going to be in it long term, maybe putting solar panels on it would be suitable for your family. But for us, what made sense was to just run electrical to our camper. So when we bought our 3-acre property, there was an abandoned house on the property. And so we already had electrical run to the property. We just need to get it closer to our camper so we could plug in a 50 amp plug into it. So before we ever did anything with our electrical, we contacted our local power company and we told them what we were doing, that we were trying to get a 50 amp outlet set up for our camper plug. And we asked them what they recommended, and they sent us guidelines of everything that we needed to do. They were super helpful and they answered all of our questions. So the first step was to purchase a meter box through them, which cost us $600. And then we built a temporary power station next to our power pole that is on our property. So my husband built this H-frame stand out of scrap wood that we had on the property and then connected the meter box to that. Then from that point, we went ahead and purchased a 50 amp plug, which the one that we got actually has a 50 amp spot and a 30 amp spot and some electrical outlets, just some 110 outlets, which has been really handy. But you could just get a 50 amp plug or a 30 amp plug. You don't have to get the fancier one. I think it was about $100. I wrote down about 100. I can't remember exactly, but I don't remember it being a crazy price. And I think we just got that from Home Depot. And we installed that 50 amp box. We connected it to just a 4x4 post in the ground, maybe a 4x6 post that we put close enough to our camper again that it could plug in. So you need to see how long your camper cord is and then make sure that your 50 amp or your 30 amp plug is close enough to plug in. Then we trenched a line from our meter box to our 50 amp box. And my husband's uncle ran our electrical for us because he used to be an electrician. So thank you, Bob, for doing that for us. That was incredible. So that was free for us, but that would obviously come with a price if you hire someone to do that. So we spent about $1,000 on wiring. This is the wire that went from the meter box to the 50 amp box underground. That was about $1,000. Like I said, we went pretty far with that. And then the last step was to contact the power company, let them know we had done all of the things on our end, and we paid them $1,100 to come out and connect then from the power pole to our meter box. And then we were ready to roll. Okay, the third thing I think you need to figure out before you move into your camper is your waste tanks. Most campers have at least 2, but sometimes 3 separate waste tanks that are going to have to be emptied. So your black water tank and your gray water tank, and then some campers have a separate galley tank, which is the tank from your kitchen sink. So your black water is going to be the water from your toilet and the waste from your toilet. Your gray water is going to be the wastewater from your sinks, and then your galley water is your kitchen water. So by far the easiest option for these waste tanks is to directly connect to some sort of septic system. Now, setting up an entire septic system just was not in the cards for our family when we moved into this RV because, like I said, we are building a house on the property and it's not near where we park the camper. And so it made no sense for us to put in a septic system up by the camper and then a separate septic system down by our house build. So we had to figure out some sort of temporary solution to deal with our waste tanks. But the most ideal solution is if you have a septic next to your camper, then you can run your black water, your gray water, and your galley water all through the septic system. That would be ideal, but I don't think that's the case for a lot of people. So I'm going to tell you what we do for ours personally. So first, for our black water, which is our toilet waste, we bought a 28-gallon storage tote that we fill and we take it to a local campground to dump. We pay $15 per dump. It usually takes us about 3 loads to empty our black tank. So about $45 to completely empty our black tank. Now, of course, this is not an ideal solution, but it is a solution. And like I said, we are in this temporarily. And so my husband's the one that does it, so I really can't complain too much. But this is what works for our family for the meantime. And then one day we'll be really, really thankful whenever we have toilets that flush and we don't have to think twice about it. So for our gray water and our galley water, we actually created a mulch basin outside of our camper that is in reach of our hoses. And we run our gray water and our galley water to this mulch basin that we created. So essentially it's like a hole in the ground that we dug. And then I think we did rock on the bottom and then mulch on top. And then we put a piece of PVC in the middle so that the water runs through that and it kind of filters in the earth. You just have to make sure if you're doing this, one, that it's legal where you live. Like I said, we live in a very rural area where there's not a lot of rules, but you just have to make sure if you are doing this as a solution that you're using, natural cleaning products. But if we were moving into a stationary camper full-time on our property and had no plans of moving, no plans of building a house, I would definitely put in a septic system. It would be an investment, but it would be worth it if you were planning on living in it full-time for a long time. Okay, the fourth thing that I think is really necessary to figure out before you move into your camper is kind of simple, not as complicated as these other things, but I really think it's crucial, especially if you are a family, and that is laundry. Figuring out what you're going to do for laundry before you move into a camper, because especially us moms, we know that laundry piles up very quickly. We are currently a family of 6, and so when 6 people are wearing a whole outfit every single day, laundry stacks up so quickly, and you really need to have a plan, whether you're going to go to the laundromat, whether you are going to have a unit in your camper, or maybe you have a friend or family member you're going to do laundry at their house. Whatever it may be, you need to figure it out before you move into the camper. We actually bought our camper off of Facebook Marketplace, and it already had a washer dryer combo inside of it. So that is what we use for the most part. It is 1 unit and it washes and dries, and it is pretty small. So it is not the most ideal for a large family, but it works for us. I do at least 1 load of laundry every single day. My kids are small, they're all 7 and under, so their clothes are small, which is very helpful right now. If I had teenagers, I don't know if this would work for us, but some of our larger items do not fit in it. So comforters, sometimes my husband's jeans, jackets, things like that that are just too bulky, we either take to the laundromat or we take to a family member's house and wash. But as far as towels and day-to-day clothes and stuff, it does a fine job. But I do think it's really crucial to figure out a laundry solution before you move into your camper. Okay, that is pretty much all I have for you guys for this video. Like I said, I created a 40-page guide that walks you through every single step of setting up your camper for stationary RV life. And I will link that down below. It's called the Stationary Camper Blueprint, and it's something I really wish that we would have had before we moved into a camper. You can also find resources and links to a lot of products that we use in that guide. And right now it's on sale for $27, so I will link that down below in the description. Also, if you have any questions at all about stationary RV life or how we did this, feel free to message me through Instagram, or you can comment on YouTube. We're super normal people and we will always respond to you if we can. Like I said, we have been doing this for 2 years, so we've learned a lot of what to do and what not to do. We're excited to share that with you guys so that maybe you can learn from our mistakes or learn from our experiences. So all that being said, I appreciate you guys being here and for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video.